Hello, welcome to Blogtown. My name is Fatima and I am your host. Today, for the very first time, I'm going to be talking to a garden blogger and his name is Derek. As you can see, I'm sitting in his lovely garden and I'm going to join him right now. Hi, Derek.
Hi, Fatima. How are you?
I'm good. Well, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
You have a lovely garden here. I'm very, very impressed. It looks really, really nice. So take us through it. Show us what you have.
Sure.
Yeah.
I like to call this area my sun garden because I go primarily, well, it gets sun because it's south facing, but also I put only sunny colors in here. So reds, yellows, and oranges. And I've got a couple of other gardens that we can see. One I call the Monet garden because it's blues and purples kind of only, those shades.
Okay.
And
so is it color-coded?
They started out being color-coded gardens, yeah. And then one we call the moon garden, which is all white flowers.
Oh, nice.
Because if you can be out there at night and the white really reflects the light and you can see the garden show up at night. So this is the sun garden, lots of reds, yellows, and oranges, and lots of sunshine. And I've been here now at this place, my home, 2 years, and before coming here I didn't have any experience gardening in the sun because where I lived before was only shade. So pretty much everything you see here is new to me and all plants that I never grew before 2 years ago.
What would you say has been, the most difficult thing in gardening in Winnipeg? Because you were somewhere else before.
That's right.
And then you just started this 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, in Toronto, where I was for the last 17 years before moving here, we're in a zone 6. So there's a lot of plants you can grow there that you can't grow here. Surprisingly, it wasn't that difficult to get used to having fewer plants because as you can see, there's still plenty of options. There's a lot of things that will grow even in zone 3. And I think the hardest thing here has been moving into a new place is having patience.
Yes.
So people say when you move to a new property, get to know it first. See how much light it gets, where the rain sits, what kind of soils you've got, and it's really great advice, but I wasn't patient enough to follow it.
So you were talking about zone 6, zone 3. What does that mean?
Right. So that's an indicator that the whole industry uses to tell you where your plants will survive.
Okay.
So we're in a zone 3 here, and it gets warmer up to like zone 9. So if you go further down into the States, it gets warmer. So you want to buy a plant here, you don't want to buy something that will only be good until like a zone 5 because it won't survive our winters.
So it seems like there's a lot of things to learn about gardening. What kind of advice would you give somebody who wants to start gardening in Winnipeg?
I would say be curious, be patient, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. My blog's called The Student Gardener because I'm always learning, and even 2 decades from now, I still will only be scratching the surface on everything that there is to know. One of the things I've learned recently is trying to start things from seed, which I'd never done before. So you'd probably notice the Rudbeckias, which are these yellow and orange tall flowers in the sun garden. And what's interesting is I started them from seed last year, and they grew about this big.
Oh, wow.
That was year 1.
Yeah.
And now year 2, they're all 4 feet tall and 3 feet wide.
Are they easy to grow?
Yeah.
So what else do you have?
There's a whole bunch of iris that bloom in the spring. So this is a pretty good late summer garden. Often gardens by this time of the year might not be as bright, but I prefer to have more things blooming in the late half of the summer than in the early half. So we've got all kinds of things like mums that don't appear until the fall as well.
It looks very nice and very colorful. So let's move on to the other side of the yard or the other side of the garden, and then you can tell me what else you have.
Absolutely, let's go.
Okay.
This is the one here that I referenced as my favorite color. It's kind of a burnt orange and chocolate. And I'm going to wait until this dries, collect the seeds, and try and plant them so that 2 years from now, this entire yellow stretch will be more of an orangey brown stretch.
I love this, yeah.
It's just a big experiment, and that's what I do. I try new things, and I see how they work, and if they don't work, I don't get too upset.
Let's go on to the other side.
Let's go.
Can you tell me a little bit about these plants over here?
Absolutely. The fun thing about some of these plants is that they're edible. So while this is primarily a flower garden rather than a vegetable garden, there's a few things in here like nasturtiums, which are these very interesting lily pad kind of looking plants.
Yeah.
These are edible. The flowers are edible. So if you come to my house for dinner, you will find flowers on the salad as garnish always.
In your salad. Can you put this in a salad?
And you can just eat these.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Tastes really good, actually.
It's not bad.
Oh, wow. I never knew you could do this. This is really good to know.
Good. And then this one is called Monarda, and it's kind of from the mint family, and I haven't done it yet, but you could use this to make a tea. So I'm thinking if I have time this year, I'll try it, but eventually I'll get in and make some teas. There's also a tomato plant in here. There's some peppers hidden away. There's a blueberry plant that's probably buried by these other plants right now, and a cherry tree. So there's a few edibles, although it's not a vegetable garden primarily. It's kind of fun to have a few things. I feel a bit like a homesteader. You know, the sense of accomplishment when you can grow your own food.
Definitely, and this smells really good too. Very minty. Well, yeah, let's move on again.
All right.
Oh wow, are these grapes?
These are grapes. So please feel free to help yourself.
Okay, I'm gonna try this right now. I'm so excited, actually.
I was very excited to find that moving back to Winnipeg, even though we're in a zone 3, we're able to grow grapes and grow cherries and grow, I don't have any pears, but you can grow a whole bunch of fruits here that I had no idea, given it's so cold.
These are so sweet, and I'm so greedy. I took the whole thing instead of one.
That's fine.
I'm sorry for that. So how do you know that they're ripe?
By tasting them. So they taste ripe, that's how I know.
It's actually very, very sweet. So what are your future plans for the garden?
The future plans, boy, there's a lot. For example, this whole backyard, I was really focused on the front yard for the first couple of years, and now I've turned my attention to the backyard. So everything in here is just a big experiment. One thing that I do a lot of and recommend to people to keep costs down, because gardening can get pretty expensive, is I divided. So I dug up everything that was here first, and I broke it all apart and divided it into smaller pieces and replanted it again. So that's pretty cool because I start with one patch of daylilies about this big, and then I break it out into 8 different patches, and then 2 or 3 years later, it's incredible how much you've got going on and how many plants you can sort of replicate. And so all of this back here were plants pretty much that were here when we moved in, but now it seems like there's 3 times as many. And that's just from digging them up and transplanting them. So now that we've done that, I've got some fun research to do over the winter to pick some new plants to kind of flesh this out and add some more stuff.
When did you start blogging? How did this start for you?
I have a really hard time keeping track of where everything is. There's just so many plants that I can plant something and then turn around and get distracted for 5 minutes and come back and not be able to remember where I put it. It's just all dirt. It all looks the same, right? So I needed to take pictures and map it out, and I thought by the time I'm doing that, I might as well share it and get some feedback and see what other people are doing. And that's how I got started, really the need to record what I was doing,
And what a great way to organize your stuff online.
I love gardening so much that I want to get other people interested in it. And one of the things that I've started is called the Winnipeg Bulb Project. And I raise money during the winter. And then at this time of year, and in fact, right now, as people are seeing this, we're probably distributing some bulbs. So tulip bulbs and daffodil bulbs that we plant in the fall and then they bloom in the spring. And I'm giving this year 11,000 bulbs for free to organizations, primarily in the north end and downtown parts of the city. So see the Spence Street Neighborhood Association, the West Broadway Community Center, they're taking 1,200 bulbs. They're going to plant them in their community gardens and distribute some to volunteers. The Chalmers neighborhood, the Elmwood, so schools, daycares, senior centers, hospitals, any places that have the space and the willing hands to plant them can get free bulbs, and it's just kind of a civic pride thing to help beautify the city, but also to maybe introduce some people to gardening who haven't done it before and get them interested in gardening.
So I was on your blog and there was something interesting that I saw there.
Yeah.
I think you called it the guerrilla gardening. What
right.
exactly is that about?
So guerrilla gardening is where you garden in a public space rather than your own yard, and you don't technically have permission to do it. So it's an illegal act, although I've never been busted. And probably what you saw was my office is in the Exchange District, and there was 150 square feet of dirt where weeds weren't even growing between the sidewalk and a parking lot. Very unappealing, but it's right beside our office. So I organized people at my work, and we've completely taken it over, and we've gardened. And the first year we just put in some plants. This year we came back, we put in mulch, we put in a border, we've got a little fence, and we even took comments that people made on the blog, and we printed them out in speech bubbles, and we planted them in the garden.
Oh, wow.
So people from the blog had comments like, way to go, you're beautifying the neighborhood, really positive reinforcement. And so we took that and we put their positive reinforcement into the community so people who aren't online can actually see what the blogosphere has to say about the garden.
So what's your most memorable blogging moment since you started blogging?
Oh, my most memorable blogging moments. This is it. This is great. You know, I would say it's sometimes you write a post and you get a lot of comments. So I don't worry about how many hits I get on my blog, but what I do measure success by is engagement and how many people have comments. So I think probably the most memorable are just some posts where you get a lot of people responding and sort of generate conversation and engagement around your posts. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, so if somebody's watching right now and they're wanting to blog, what kind of advice would you give them? I
would say, people generally say to be authentic, and that's wholeheartedly true. You have to really care about what you're blogging about, or it's just going to become a chore, something you have to do. You really want it to be something that you want to do, but I think that's table stakes. So aside from that advice, I would say spend some time researching how to promote a blog, what groups you can join, where you can share your links, how you register on directories, because if you write great content, people who find it will share it, but people might not find it if you don't spend some time learning how to share your content online and where you can share it and what's appropriate. So I think that's probably some good advice that most people might not realize.
Yeah, and it sounds like passion is the most important thing when it comes to blogging.
Right, because no matter if you figure out how to share it, but your content isn't really interesting and full of your passion that you bring with it, then it won't get shared. So that's for sure the most important thing. You have to care about what you're writing about. Yeah.
Well, Derek, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting us into your home. Your garden is beautiful, and I learned a lot about gardening. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Come back anytime.
Oh, I'll definitely come and hang out with Maddie.
Yeah.